And I remember distinctly Bruce, Chase's dad, he left on a Monday for a business trip, and
Tuesday night.
that was the last time we saw him. And so I think that added, I mean, not that, you know, any loss in any circumstance is so hard, but it really was just so shocking, like so sudden. Um, and it was, yeah, he had a pulmonary embolism. And it just was like none of us would have had any idea. Like nobody saw it coming at all.
And we found that out, I think, in October. Like it took a while. He passed away in
Yeah,
July,
that's
and
true.
we found out in October, early October. And then this is end of October when I wake up in the middle of the morning on a Sunday, and I'm like, man, my leg is just killing me. And I was like, you know what? I should just go get it checked out because, what if it was a DVT? I really wasn't that concerned about it, but I went to the emergency room and just went to get it checked out, and sure enough, it was. It was
It
a it
was.
was a DVT,
Like he literally had a blood
a blood
clot in
clot in
his
my
leg.
leg, and
The thing that had, caused his dad to suddenly pass away literally like a few months prior.
yeah.
It's just crazy.
So I instantly became super anxious, and for I would say about 6 to 8 months after that, I really struggled with anxiety. Just thinking basically like my dad just passed away. Our daughter's struggling with, we didn't even know at the time the diagnosis,
Yeah,
right?
that was the other thing is like Chase said, concurrently as all of this is happening, it was we were discovering that something was
Wrong with
seriously
Charlie.
wrong with Charlie. And I feel like right when it had when Bruce passed away, we still didn't quite know if it was something that was just going to be like we didn't know it was going to be a long-term issue. Um, but it was right around that time that we it was starting to unfold and we were starting to realize like, oh my gosh, this is really serious. So the timing also I think really contributed to like it was just
Terrible.
yeah, it just felt like, are you serious? Like how is this all happening at the same time? Like it was just nuts.
And I think,
And then your
and then my
experience.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I felt like it started, yeah, I just started to get this anxiety, and it started to build over the months. And I started to just feel really anxious. And I felt like it got to the point where it was like pretty crippling, like I was having like panic attacks at work and on, in transit, like going to and from. And there was a couple of times I woke up in the middle of the night, and
Yeah, I think you
I
ended
went to
up going to the hospital at
a
least
couple
like
times.
I think it was at least three or four other times
Yeah.
with just that fear that like you were having
What
another
if?
DVT. And I mean, it's so valid because that initial time it was a DVT. Like you weren't wrong, you
Yeah.
know? And so, but yeah, but then there were several other times after that where you were worried that it was, even though it wasn't, but it was just that anxiety of like, oh my gosh, yeah,
And there's the expression of just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so
right.
I definitely felt like that. I was like, okay, well, I guess, like, is this my time? Am I going to go now? Type of thing. Like, I was like, I'm pretty young. But anyways, so it really freaked me out. And at the time, I was working with this kind of life coach and business coach. And one of the questions that she posed that helped me is she said, like, and again, this isn't professional advice. This is just what worked for me, right? But she was like, what's the worst that could happen? She's like, just kind of play that scenario out. And I was like, okay, well, let's say I had a pulmonary embolism like my dad and I ended up passing away. Like, would my family be okay? Would they, And as terrible as that would be, I was like, you know what? I think they would be okay. Um, and so that helped me a little bit. And then also another thing that I kind of realized as I was going through this situational anxiety and depression was um, before this, I had had family members and friends that had struggled with anxiety and depression. And I always just thought, like, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like I truly understood. I may not have said this, but I was like, oh, like, are people like self-diagnosing more, or are people not really struggling with these things? But I realized how like crippling it really could be. And I feel like it was a gift in a way to me to be able to empathize with other people that do go through anxiety and depression, whether it's situational or whether it is clinical. And man, it sucks. Yeah, and I'm sorry if any of you are going through it or have experienced that, but it did give me that empathy to be like, I need to be a little bit kinder to other people. I need to be a little bit more patient or more aware of what maybe are going on, what's going on in other people's lives. Um, there's a saying or expression that many things are trivial and few are important. And I think when going through something like that, it really helps you to focus on like the few things that are important.